So I'm going to ask for Susie Shannon and for Esther Malcolm to join me.
Hey guys, quiet down, please.
Thank you.
Henning said quiet, so.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's a testament of today's times, right? That we need to advocate, for some of the most vulnerable in our state, in our communities. Community in a very diverse community that we all come from. It doesn't matter what part of the state we find ourselves in, whether it's urban settings, Southern California and Northern California, but also the Central Valley. We need to make sure that all of us we lift every renter. If we're able to lift the renters who are the most vulnerable communities, and then we rise all. So I just want to focus right now in the Central Valley, if I may. I just want to, before I introduce my co-MCs here, I just want to, the Central Valley, I've been doing some work in the Central Valley, and this is where the community that I grew up in. And there's been, we have systematic racism in our housing elements. We have communities that have not seen housing development in 50 plus years. We have communities that during the pandemic, we would see a small dwelling that is not habitable, but housed 19 people. This is a reality. I seen roofs caving in, housing with no, plumbing, and so forth. That is what is happening in some of the most vulnerable communities in our beautiful state, our golden state. So I just want us to be very intentional that when we lift renters, that we never forget, in the Central Valley, that I'm going to make an ask of you, that when you are in spaces of privilege, when you're in spaces of making decisions that impact our tenants, that you also reached out to those who do not have a voice on the table. Quite often, because some of the leadership tends to be very conservative, very MAGA, and they need to compromise, and even those that are aligned with some of our values, they tend to, be protective of their space in the party. So they're not as bold, as brave, as courageous as they need to be, but that is the circumstance that we find ourselves in. I'm going to ask of you to please, when you are in spaces of privilege, that you don't forget Raquel Velasco, that you don't forget Manuel, who lost his limbs, and he's no longer able to work. But, his housing is falling down on him. His housing is tied to his employment. So remember Mateo, Manuel, and Raquel, when you are in spaces of privilege, and you have a voice. Don't forget. So with that, I'm going to pass it on. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to invite Susie Shannon and Esther Malcolm to come to the front. So Susie Shannon, and I'm going to ask, I don't know if, I'm going to ask Alfred and Vinny, and I don't know if Annie is here already. So this, I want to introduce you. I'm going to go over here. Coming this way is Vinny Bacon. He is our treasurer. So he's the one who takes care of our finance, okay? And we have our secretary, Alfred. So you probably get emails and the beautiful, our marketing, our signs and everything. Alfred has make sure that you get the minutes and keeps me in check. I really appreciate you, Alfred, Susie Shannon, who is our Southern California Vice Chair. She's new to this position, but she was with us serving as an officer at large. Esther Malcolm, who is our officer at large here in the Monterey. She actually, this beautiful event, the food, this was the labor of love of Esther. Please, we're going to thank her for the delicious food, the ambiance, And I'm going to pass it on to Esther, and then Esther will pass it on to Susie, and then we're just going to...
Yeah, we'll go through it. Thanks everybody for coming. Really nice turnout. Really appreciate the support for renters who are, like Marty said, the most vulnerable in our area and all of yours as well. I want to first of all thank our sponsors that made this possible. Their names are on some of your tables. We had Betty Yee, Kate Daniels, Jimmy Panetta, Paula Pelot. We had a couple of other elected officials, Tony Vazquez and Ben Allen, sorry. I don't have very good notes because everything was kind of last minute. And yeah, Housing is a Human Right and Housing Now, two nonprofits that are very, very active in the state, helping us all do what we can. So some of our sponsors unfortunately could not be here, but we want to acknowledge them because without them this event wouldn't have been able to happen. So the reason for this event really is we want to make sure that the state party acknowledges the renter vote. We all know that we are in the most important election ever, and the renters make up almost half of the residents in this state. In many of our jurisdictions, they have a very high majority. Like right here in Monterey, we are 66% renters. We have Salinas here represented, we have Marina represented, all well over 50% renters. We as a party absolutely need to speak to them. We need every vote. And unfortunately, the renters have not really been courted. So I implore everybody in this room to go back to your districts and ask your elected officials and your council members, your supervisors, everybody to please make it a priority to speak to the renters. The number one way of us preventing homelessness to go any further in our state is by rent being affordable. We have to do that. And so, just for perspective, the latest numbers show at our minimum wage, that's $16.50 an hour, a person would have to work 98 hours to afford a one-bedroom apartment. I don't know about anybody in this room being able to pull off a 98-hour work week. So that is a statistic that really should drive this point home, that we absolutely need to get that under control while we have building going on and adding inventory that will help stabilize our rents. It has to be the two things together going on at the same time. So with that in mind, I'm going to introduce one of our sponsors and one of our local champions when it comes to renter issues and housing. Kate Daniels is our county supervisor for District 5, and she's here today and going to speak to you all. She's always been a huge supporter of all things housing and renters. Thanks.
Esther, thank you. And let's give Esther another round of applause. Not only would this event not be happening without Esther, the voices of renters would not be top of mind on every single one of our elected officials if it were not for Esther Malkin here in Monterey County. So especially on Esther, thank you so much. And you know, I was reflecting as I was sitting back there and Esther was speaking about the very first time I had a meeting with Esther, and it was with Esther and Karen O'Neill, who's also here in the room. And I had, by chance, been recruited to run a local program for senior women, unhoused senior women here on the Monterey Peninsula. And when I took the job, they came to me and said exactly what Esther just said. You cannot separate the conversation about homelessness and what unhoused individuals are facing from the renter question and from the cost of living and rising rents. They're directly proportional, and you have to look at both of them together. And so I've never forgot that, and that's been the focus. You are all here on the Monterey Peninsula right now. This is District 5. Welcome to District 5. It's really wonderful that this is where the E-Board is meeting, and I'm glad you're all here. And just to give you some context, You know, this school district that you're in right now, this is the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. We have less than 10,000 students in our school district. 2,000 of them qualify as homeless. 2,000 of the children in this district. And so the program that I was just talking about that I worked in, we have 500 senior women right here on the Monterey Peninsula who are either living out under the elements or in their cars or in some other substandard situation that we served in that one program that I worked at. So it is a huge crisis that really, as an elected official, drove me to run. I say this over and over again. I know my friends and colleagues are sick of me saying this, but I have no desire to ever run for anything ever again in the future. I am here as a county supervisor to move the needle on this issue. This issue is one that is so relevant and critical to the sustainability of the region. What is a community without people? And what we don't recognize is that we're slowly building in places along the coast, like the Monterey Peninsula, a place that's so uninhabitable to the residents that we could find a future where we are vacation homes, empty homes, holiday homes, second homes, third homes, fourth homes, and no place for people, for a community. And I am 100% convinced, to the folks who have any question of what we're doing, that's not a place that's going to attract a lot of visitors. It will be very pretty, but there will not be any people to make this place as special as it is, because that takes human beings, that takes people, that takes residents. And so I just want to say thank you to your work. Susie, I know the work that you do. It blows me away. Esther keeps me posted. It takes this week is Free Speech Week. And obviously, it's important to remember these sorts of things, that we have the First Amendment here in the United States of America. This is the final day of Free Speech Week. And one of those rights that we have under the First Amendment is the right to petition your government, right? And it goes hand in hand with the right of freedom of speech, with the right to assemble, like the major rallies that we see happening across the country, like last Saturday. But the right to petition your government is one that we need to exercise, or it doesn't make any sense. It does no service to us if we don't actually use that right. And I see people like Susie and a lot of you in this room like doing that work, and I'm just so appreciative of it. And then I will say about Alfred, the use of the arts in conveying this message and in telling the story that needs to be told is also so critical. And those are all things that there are folks aiming to take those rights away, right? To erode those rights, that free speech, that ability to exercise the First Amendment. And so one of the things I'll end by saying is that it's become really clear to me that those rights exist until we choose to give them away, right? Folks can come and try to take those rights and impress upon us or steal them from us, but we have them until we choose to not show up, to not speak out, to not exercise those rights. So please, continue to exercise those rights. We're seeing it live right here in Monterey County. It is happening thanks to all of you. We have so much work to do, and it's just really wonderful to be in a room with some of the most active members of the California Democratic Party doing just that. So thank you all so much, and I'm grateful to be your partner in this work. And let's keep going.
Okay, thanks, Kate. That was really inspiring and nostalgic for me when I first met Kate. That was quite a long time ago. So now I'd like to introduce Susie Shannon. She is one of our board members, but she is also the policy director at Housing is a Human Right, amongst a number of other positions that she holds. She's a rock star. We should all be so lucky to have somebody like her in our corner, and hopefully have more of them. So Susie's going to come up and speak to you guys. She's also one of our big sponsors today.
Yes, I'm Susie Susie Shen, I'm Policy Director for Housing as a Human Right. Also the chair and founder of the DNC Poverty Council, and I'm a DNC member now, again, doing my caucus, so thank you. Before I start though, I want to acknowledge a few folks. We have the former mayor of Santa Monica here, Sue Himmelrich, in the back. We are joined by CDP controller, and also our CDP Secretary Carolyn Fowler and Diana Love, who have been such champions for the Focus Council. Also Annie Karuga, where are you, Annie? She wasn't here earlier, but I want to acknowledge her. She's one of our board members here from the Focus Council. So I just wanted to say, we know that rent control is under attack. We can see this, across the United States. Here in California, we have made so many gains in so many different municipalities. Our Renters Council and also Housing as a Human Right has worked very hard to repeal a law called Costa-Hawkins. That law actually we want to repeal so that we can lower rent increases so that people can actually still afford to live in California. We also want to repeal the Ellis Act, which allows, right now, allows landlords to actually take their rent-controlled units off the market. But while we're doing that at the local level, we've seen incredible work from our tenant activists. And every time we get a gain, like for instance in Pasadena or in Salinas, which you'll hear from the activists who are here today in a few minutes, every time that happens, corporate landlords come in and they sue the city of LA, they have sued the city of Pasadena, they sued the city of Santa Monica, and now they're going after Salinas, and we'll hear from those folks later. So it is so important that embedded within the California Democratic Party, we have this Renters Council, we have all of you, and I want to applaud everyone who's here today because it really does take all of you who are working within the for us to have all of these gains that we have. And also just to say, look, the Democratic Party cares very much about people who are vulnerable. I am a union member with SEIU 2015. But I have to say that, I say this a lot, that people who are low income, people who live in poverty, they don't have a union, they have the Democratic Party. And if the Democratic Party fails them, they don't have anyone. So it's very, very important for us to be standing up for folks. I work for a nonprofit. I have to appeal to Democrats in Congress, in the state legislature, and at the local level in order for us to have any gains at all. Oh, and I see Michelle Reed from SEIU 2015. All right, sister. All right, I'm going to hand this off to Esther. I so appreciate all of you who are here today. You know that. I know I come to you a lot and ask you for a lot of work to help out, so I do appreciate that, and I thank you again for coming. And I'm going to actually introduce our rock star here, who is a Board of Equalization member. He is also the former mayor of Santa Monica. He is a huge renter, activist. He has done so much at the city of Santa Monica and also at the Board of Equalization, also another person who I come to a lot to do a lot of work on behalf of tenants. And we're so excited to have him here today. He's been a big supporter of the Renters Council from its very inception. I'd like to bring up Tony Vazquez.
Thank you. Give it up for Susie and Esther for all this work. And I had the pleasure to work with Susie many, many years on rent control. I first got elected to what we call the People's Republic of Santa Monica in 1990. That's why I started my political career. And I got into it really actually as a young student out of USC at the time. We were working a lot with Larry Gross at the time in downtown LA to protect a lot of these tenants that were being really brutalized by these slumlords in downtown LA. And I was just a young student trying to figure this thing all out. And I always hated politicians. I thought they were the biggest crooks. And then I find myself running in 1990, only because, one, the People's Republic of Santa Monica is all about renters. That's what took over the city. I think you mentioned this, where we're at now, it's 60% or 66. We're up to 72% in Santa Monica. And it's because of rent control that we're protecting a lot of the diversity that exists in the city. But it's starting to slip away. Because there's people on my council, and they mentioned one of my former mayors. I was the mayor, and then Sue followed me, Hemorrhage. And we have some folks that are supposedly strong Democrats on the council that believe any housing is good housing. And I'm against that, because high end, if you have $5,000, I can find you a rent control, supposedly a rent control apartment in Santa Monica today. But that's not affordable. For me, it's all about, we need to incentivize true affordable housing.
That's right.
Because abundance never becomes affordable. Don't let them try to convince you that, just building it is going to change it. It doesn't happen. It's like this Reaganomics, that's going to trickle down. That's not going to happen. And they're just disguising it under this term of abundance, which is ridiculous. And it's actually one of the reasons why I'm running for state treasurer. Because I don't know if you know this, but the treasurer sits on many commissions, many committees in the state, but the two most powerful ones is CalPERS and CalSTRS.
You betcha.
CalSTRS is the largest educational pension fund in the world. It's up to $370 billion. CalPERS is $550 billion. And you know how much of that we're investing in California? Less than 2%. Less than 2%. Yet, California is the 4th largest economy in the world. How could this be a bad investment? Imagine if we had those kind of dollars invested in California to help out the nonprofits that really want to do true affordable housing.
That's right.
How much we can do with that. I was on the reservation down in San Diego with Paula just recently, and they would love to be able to leverage their dollars to build more housing for their folks on the reservation. And they said they met with the treasurer early on when she got elected, and here we are 8 years later, it still hasn't happened. The problem we have is many people that run for my office, state treasurer, are running because they want to run for a higher office. I'm done. At the end of the day, I don't care if I piss people off. We need to do the right thing, invest in California, and hopefully turn this economy around for Californians. I have 2 kids, and one of them just got married to another professional. They're having a tough time paying the rent. And these are 2 educated young professionals, and that's a crime. We got to change that. So hopefully with your support and many of the folks up and down the state, we can turn this thing around, because I think we have enough progressive delegates in the state of California to flip this, and we need to do it. Thank you for your time.
We're honored to have him speak to us. He's got a lot of experience that we all can relate to. So now you guys are here in Monterey, and I wanted to kind of fill you in on some specific things that are happening here in Monterey that are in the spotlight when it comes to renter issues. We have two jurisdictions here, the city of Marina and the city of Salinas, both going through some potential very damaging processes to the election process, the campaign funding, all of the things that hurt our democracy when it comes to, if you've got the money, you can control everything that happens in your cities. So the city of Marina has had a couple of city properties that they have had for decades, and they have been rent controlled. And the current city council has been considering seriously to raise those rents. So yeah, that's one of the problems. And I'm gonna have Paula Pelot, who is the chair of the only tenants union on the peninsula that I'm aware of. And she's been at this decades, and she can give you some more detail. And the reason it's important to hear from these 2 cities is because they could be your cities. What they are going through will happen elsewhere. We have these small wins here and there, and we don't get a chance to enjoy them or for people to benefit from them because all the big money, corporate and otherwise, swoop in, undo the progress that we've made, and set us back. So I'm going to have Paula talk to you first, and then we'll have the Salinas folks. So this is Paula Pelot.
So in Marina, we have some pretty peculiar challenges that are above and beyond the normal rent stabilization challenges. The city has had a lot of property, it's had a lot of development, it's had many opportunities to develop affordable housing, rental housing. It's also had years and years in which it could have enacted rent stabilization, and they've only paid lip service to it. But what's particularly unique about Marina is, aside from the fact that 60.7% of our households are renters, and they have been ignored by the local governance, is that they actually own 2 properties through nonprofits that they receive through negotiations with the former Fort Ord Reuse Authority. And so back in 2010, they did enact the equivalent of a rent stabilization for in-place tenants that limited the amount of rent increases for in-place tenants to CPI or whatever was 3% as a cap, and that was great. But in 2019, our rents started to diverge from those that were in the market. And why was that? Why was that? Because of Greystar. Greystar, the corporate owner, manager of our property, not the owner but the manager, began to use its AI algorithms, and it was the subject of the Department of Justice lawsuit that has been documented, that they price fixed and they colluded, and so the rents started to climb. Now in Marina, the median income for a family of 4 is about $88,000 to $90,000. But if your rent to house that is around $3,000 or $4,000, that's more than half of your gross income.
Yeah.
But if you've taken a 21% deduction and paid your taxes just to the federal government, you still can't make it. It's almost all of your income. So what Marina is now deciding to do is it thinks that it can match those market rents, or it should be matching those market rents, and therefore it's going to renege on its 2010 resolutions and start to increase the rents for those of us that live there in those units. And we are fighting them on this, but we fear we're going to lose that battle, that they are still going to increment those rents up and renege on that promise. And so we're going to need the help and support of the party and everyone else in resources to move toward a rent stabilization for the entire city, because we have no other choice. That's what's happening in Marina.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you. So our other city that's going through a lot of serious issues when it comes to housing and rents is the city of Salinas. And just for a preview of who's going to be speaking to you, I have Dr. John Silva that's here, and he's going to start the group off because we have a couple of people speaking from Salinas. The Salinas situation is extremely, extremely disturbing because, as you will hear, it can literally happen to any city. And Salinas is 150,000 people? 160,000 people. They are majority renters. They are a farm worker community. They are very active with their city council, who is not listening to them. So the big push, and I'll reiterate what I said earlier, we need every single renter vote out there.
That's right.
When we have cities that are majority renters, we need to speak to all of them. Our elected officials need to make sure they feel heard so that they turn out and vote. And of course, this coming election is extremely important because we need to win back the House.
Yep.
So it's going to be speaking to them about what things are going on locally that will affect them, but also nationally, and we can't afford to keep ignoring the renter vote. So I'm going to have Dr. John Silva come up because the unique thing about what he's been doing, and I've been watching him so well speaking so well to the city council, is he's brought other medical doctors to the conversation to show people that this isn't just an income and expense issue. We need to preserve people's mental health, their physical health. Not having affordable housing affects everything in your life. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited that John was able to join us.
Thank you, Esther. This is our whole team, which will all have a chance to speak to you. Thank you for this opportunity for exposure, Esther, and thank you all for deciding to come to this workshop here. As Esther mentioned, Dr. John Silva, I've practiced in Salinas since 1987, mostly over on the east side, El Barrio, and I got a chance to see the hardships that families have had to go through housing-wise for many years. Just before the pandemic, 2017, 2018, we started to do some uplifting of voice over on the east side, and I participated in a workshop there, a several-month workshop. And the main project of that workshop, as far back as 2017, 2018, was affordable housing. We initiated a program at that time called Viviendas para Todos, or Housing for All. And that effort went on. It was a very interesting thing to be part of. And then the pandemic hit, and all the protections that came with the pandemic. But as you know, since the pandemic has gone away, things have started getting rough again. Right now, I do a lot of work with the group for Doctors for Healthy Salinas, trying to gather that energy. Why? So we providers in Salinas, as I said before here, story after story, several times a week, about emergency housing needs of not just individuals, although there are many homeless in Salinas, also families, a mom with 3 or 4 kids living in a car. I field one call a week like that. John, can you help me get these people housed? There are, as you know, there are a lot of other statistics I could bore you with, and I brought this up to remind you that if you want to hear all the data, I'm going to be available later, we can talk about that. But the one, and the data generally tracks along with the poverty data. The housing challenges that people face and the outcomes really track along with the poverty data. Let's see, the real factoid, I am going to give you one piece of data, and it's already been alluded to today. I heard a 20% McKinney-Vento at the MPUSD, the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. So in Salinas, the numbers are much higher. So the McKinney-Vento is the federal homeless indicator, and it includes all those people that I just referred to, where they're living in a car, or their families, or children, young people that are couch surfing. Right now, as of June of this year, Monterey County had the highest number in the state of people with McKinney-Vento, and it was 12.6%. The next closest city was, it was 16% of school kids in Monterey County are considered homeless. The next closest counties are like 10 and 12%. I think they're Ventura County and Santa Barbara County. So we're above that, just to give you an idea of the poverty that we're experiencing in Monterey County. So that's the one data thing that was to bore people, but that's a really important one. When we're considering that, we're considering the mental health and behavioral health consequences of moving every 2 or 3 months, of waking up in a car every day sometimes, and how can you learn like that? So I think of all the data, that's the most significant one that we and my colleagues are trying to work on. So again, if you want to hear the other data, I'm happy to share that with you. Not in front of everybody, it would take too long and you'd fall asleep. I'm going to introduce, so that's what keeps us motivated, and I'm going to introduce to you another colleague, Matt Huerta, who's going to talk about some other growth of our program.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, California Democratic Party. I am pleased to be here with my colleagues here, our activist team here from Salinas. So I'm an affordable housing advocate. I've been doing affordable housing policy, advocacy, training and coaching, and development for over 25 years. I'm based in Salinas, but I do statewide work, and it's never been harder. In the last 25 years since I've been paying attention to this, today I can tell you very confidently that it has never been harder to keep people housed and to develop high quality, deep, affordable housing to meet the needs of our communities. It takes all of us. It takes reaching across the aisle. It takes creativity, innovation, all tools in the toolbox, all those things. And so I'm proud to also be an AD 29 delegate, appointed by Speaker Rivas, and advise him and many others here locally and regionally on affordable housing policy. when this issue came across my desk really, but also just living in Salinas, my wife's a school teacher as well, and 4 kids. I'm deeply invested in obviously their futures and the futures of our neighbors. It hurts. It hurts because what I saw increasingly happen in our community is the advantage that folks that in the landlord community, folks that are supposed to be delivering high quality housing, we're not doing that. And they're taking every advantage. And when 2020 happened and the worst things that we were dealing with as a community in terms of death and destruction of our families, the pandemic was raging in our community, and our farm workers, our essential workforce that's there to provide food security, not only for us, but for the country and beyond, when they were being given 13% increases, this is documented, over 13% increases during that time frame, okay, as they were choking from the fires that were ravaging our county. It's unconscionable, and that and many other issues, but I'm just like, you know what, gloves are off, I'm sorry. You know, sometimes we can, look the other way or continue, try to work with folks, but sometimes you just gotta fight. And so when they, thank you. And so I think that's what's happened for a lot of us, and when we had a fairly progressive, very meaningful and thoughtful council in that time frame, and a majority of council worked and listened to the community participated through dozens and dozens of community meetings, hundreds, if not thousands of our residents actually participated, farm workers themselves, right? After working long days and hours, nights and weekends would participate. We heard from them. We designed ordinances that would meet those needs. That all effort led to ordinances that were very strong, but they met the moment. And then when elections have consequences. And so, unfortunately, a lot of that went the other way. As soon as another council came in, they decided to go another way and just wipe all that out. And we had started in 2023 with a rental registry, basically doing the work to understand the issue. And that's where I think some of the learning came from for us, was like, and we want to bestow upon others, it's like, look, it starts with the community effort, it starts with getting the data, it starts with having really strong policies that we can all get behind. And even then, I'll mention, and I'm going to pass the mic to my other colleagues here, but what I learned in that too was that you still have to try to work with everybody who's willing to come to the table. And at that time in 2023, even though we had a fairly conservative mayor and some other leaders, they voted with our group. We got them to the table, and we had a unanimous vote when the first strong ordinances around rental registry went forward. We had consensus. That fell apart again because they smelled blood and they went for it. And so now it's upon us to lock arms with all of you to protect Salinas renters and all of our renters across California. And I'm going to...
Buenas tardes, yo solamente voy a hablar en español, mi nombre es Nidia Soto y compartiré acerca de mi vida personal y laboral.
I'm Nidia Soto, and she's going to speak on behalf of her experience, life experience and work experience.
Tratando de sobrevivir en Salinas con los altos costos de alquiler.
Struggling to survive in Salinas with the high cost of rent.
Y muchos desalojos injustos.
And many unjust evictions.
Siendo una campesina por 12 años.
Being a farm worker for 12 years.
Mamá de 3
mother
hijos.
Mother of 3 children.
Después de eso trabajé en el sindicato de la Unión de Campesinos por 12 años también.
After those 12 years as a farm worker, Nidia worked as a UFW organizer for another 12 years.
Pues no tengo estudio, pero tengo la experiencia y el corazón con mi comunidad.
She doesn't have academic experience, but she has life experience.
Actualmente estoy trabajando con Building Healthy Community. Voy para 4 meses como organizadora de la justicia económica.
Currently, she's working as an organizer for Building Healthy Communities. She has worked going on 4 years. She's going on 4 years in the role of economic justice organizer.
y fui voluntaria y soy voluntaria para Protect Salinas Renters.
And is a volunteer for Protect Salinas Renters.
Empecé como organizadora construyendo comunidades saludables a formar comités de involucramiento cívico, le llamamos la escuelita de involucramiento cívico, donde me enfoqué en septiembre del 2022.
Started her work with DHC as an organizer, building a resident leadership with the Escuelita, the Little School of Civic Involvement, starting in September 2022.
En octubre del 2022, mi familia y otras 5 familias fuimos desalojadas sin razón justa.
And that same year, and 1 month later, they were evicted, an unjust eviction, her and her 3 children.
Pasando noviembre, Día de Acción de Gracias, Navidad y Año Nuevo, con el propietario tocándonos la puerta a cada familia para que nos fuéramos.
And then constantly from Thanksgiving on, we're reminded by the new owners that they had to leave.
Esa es una de las cosas que yo y mi familia vivimos experimentando, desalojos injustos, y es una de las cosas que he podido mirar con mucho de la comunidad, y es por eso que sigo teniendo y tengo más fuerte el corazón para ayudar a nuestra comunidad.
And this is because of this life experience that has informed her work, her whole approach to this struggle, to this movement to protect renters.
Siguiendo la lucha, en cada junta del concilio empezamos a formar parte de este esfuerzo de presentar nuestras experiencias vividas con desalojos injustos y altos costos de alquiler, aumentos injustos.
So coordinating with our neighbors, residents, tenants that were all experiencing the same experience that she had, varied degrees of struggle around unjust evictions and extreme rent increases.
Formamos una coalición de vivienda, la cual formó parte de VHC, nuestra organización, CCA, Centro Binacional y Centro Laboral, y Reinvest 831.
And it was after the approval of the rental registry, which was mentioned by Matt, Nidia and team began coordinating with city, other partnering orgs, built a coalition with 4 other orgs, Center for Community Advocacy, Center for Binational Development of Indigenous Oaxaqueños, Monterey Bay Central Labor Council, and Reinvest 831 to begin meeting with our residents base and city council members.
También hicimos una serie de juntas abiertas al público por cada distrito, con cada concejal, donde venían cada inquilino a decir sus experiencias vividas.
Coordinating these meetings that are specifically in each district in Salinas between the city council representative and residents, which were primarily focused on our tenant neighbors.
En mayo del 2024 coordinamos una asamblea del pueblo sobre estas ordenanzas que estábamos luchando para que se pasaran en el concilio. Tuvimos una audiencia de participación de inquilinos de más de 300 personas, las cuales tuvimos interpretación en diferentes idiomas: español, inglés, mixteco, triqui, en el este de Salinas.
In the month of May of 2024, put together, coordinated an assembly of over 400 residents, and the language spectrum was English, Spanish, Mixteco, Triqui, Chatino, indigenous languages, because we know exactly how big our indigenous community is. This was in May of 2024. This was to inform them of this movement, of this work.
Nuestro equipo de VHC, con nuestras bases, colectamos alrededor de 4,000 firmas, donde enseñaban los inquilinos que era más del 80% de sus salarios que estaban dirigidos a pagar su alquiler, y entregamos al concilio.
In this whole process, over 4,000, up to 4,000 to 5,000 signatures were collected on a petition, and on these petitions that were distributed amongst the 4 other coalition groups, we found, or what we were able to determine, because there was a question there, how much of your monthly rent goes to, what's the percentage of your monthly income that goes to rent? And it was all pretty much a majority, 80, 90, 100% of their income was what was indicated on the participants who filled out that petition.
Otoño del 2024 se llegó el voto por las ordenanzas, el concilio de la ciudad de Salinas votando unánimemente aprobaron estas ordenanzas. Y con eso concluyo mi...
And then in September 24, 2024, the ordinances were approved. It was a historic win because it was the one ordinance that was already passed by the rental registry, but the 3 ordinances, just cause eviction, protection against harassment from landlords, and rent stabilization at 2.75%, no more than 2.75%.
Someone's leaning against the mic. There we go.
All right, lights are on, let's go. Landlord, somebody pay the lights or what?
Con eso se paso a
Now we're passing it over.
Jasmine Topete.
Now we're passing it over to Jasmine Topete.
Gracias.
Thank you.
There should be some on each table. These are the ordinances that Nidia just spoke to, and there should be a copy of these 4 ordinances on each table. Yes, Yasmin Topete will wind us up.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine Topete Lopez. I'm a lifelong Salinas apartment resident and a recent first-gen UC Santa Cruz graduate. My parents have lived in the same apartment complex for over 25 years, and me my whole 21 years of life. I believe that opportunities can come knocking on your door because, well, it happened to me. I actually met Nidia in a very funny way. She came to my house one day, and at first I hid because I don't answer the door for people I don't know. And funny because then I would be knocking on doors and they would be hiding from me. But she started talking to my mom through the camera about the rental ordinances, and I was like, I know about that. So I opened the door and we started talking. That's when I realized I had seen her before at a CITE convening through my program at UC Santa Cruz. She invited me to join La Escuelita, where I could learn even more about our community, and honestly, that changed everything for me. While many of my classmates couldn't wait to leave Salinas, I couldn't wait to see how I could make my community better. That's why I decided to commute. Because I don't want to leave. I want to stay here, build a future, and hopefully raise a family one day. Getting involved in this campaign felt like one step in the right direction because no child should have to make a choice on whether or not to go to college or stay back and help their parents pay rent. When the City Council repealed the 4 rental ordinances on June 3rd, Protect Salinas Renters was formed, and we began gathering signatures for a referendum. In just 1 month, we collected over 10,000 signatures by walking the streets and talking to our neighbors. I learned so much. I learned so much even from people who disagreed or were the other side, the opposite side. Some who didn't support the ordinances still signed because they wanted their voices heard at an election. And so many shared their own struggles with me with rent and housing, and their stories really stayed with me. Hearing others' struggles and my own families kept me pushing me through to continue in this campaign. And seeing people come together, even those who wouldn't personally benefit, showed me that what community really means. I began making social media videos to represent Protect Salinas Renters and speak on behalf of my generation. And as a coalition member with Building Healthy Communities in Monterey County, I even helped deliver our message to City Council that we were not going to negotiate with landlords as directed by Mayor Donahue. This experience showed me that real change starts right where you live, and that when we listen to one another and stand together, we can make Salinas a better place for everyone. This battle isn't over, and we will continue to stand together as a community to protect renters.
Excellent, Jasmine. So just a couple of quick notes before we wrap up. We're really just about done. I want to point out some of the other people that were out there with us collecting signatures, spending a lot of time knocking on doors. I see Eleanor. It's okay to Natalie. And then part of the PSR Coalition, and Carrie. And our videographer, Wes. Busy videographer. And I see someone that I canvassed with, Jan. Jan! Yes, Jan. So, I understand that Eleanor, Madam E, has stickers and buttons about our campaign.
Oh, good.
Like this beautiful one I'm rocking. So, where are we right now? Because of our successful petition campaign, these 4 ordinances will be on the ballot in November of 2026. And the real cool thing is that the ordinances will stay in place until that time.
Yeah.
So Salinas is benefiting for another year. And then the most recent news is just this week we found out about a DA investigation into our petition gathering campaign. It's shameless and it's foolishness. If you get a chance to see the Coast Weekly while you're here, on page 13 of the Coast Weekly, there's an article describing that investigation. So, we need resources going forward, we'll need funds going forward. There's an easy way for you guys to do that. This QR code here will get you to our campaign website. You can become a volunteer member that way if you like. And there's also a portal there to donate. With that, we appreciate very much once again this opportunity, Esther, and appreciate your help.
Okay, so now you all hear what can happen in your own backyards. You know, having the DAs come to people's homes just because they signed a petition is a sign of where we're all headed. In fact, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but we need the renters to turn out and vote in every jurisdiction. Super important. So I wanted to bring up our other supervisor, Wendy Root Askew. She's District 4, and she has a lot of the Salinas area in her district. So welcome, Wendy.
Thank you, Esther. And I just want to say, like, I'm so impressed with the turnout. Esther, you've done a phenomenal job of organizing. To the Renters Caucus for the Democratic Party, like, thank you guys so much. I grew up, I lived in, I don't know, 20-something different homes in my life until we finally bought our house and got really lucky. But I'm never moving again. But I get it, right? Like the reality for so many of us and for so many of my constituents is that housing instability causes, it's a reason that you can't focus on so many other things in life. And until we can figure out how to solve that equation, we're never gonna be able to move on to so many other issues. And the only way to solve for that equation is to organize, because organizing is how things change. And so to the folks, Monterey County, I just want to say, the folks who just spoke and the team from Monterey County, like, the battle is being fought right here, right now. And what's happening in Salinas right now, how this plays out in Salinas is going to define what happens statewide. So we need your support statewide to support the team that is bravely, I mean, the folks who spoke, like, these are the bravest human beings you will ever meet. Because the pressures are so real, they're so strong, the forces, the power, it is real. I'm looking at, we know. And so for those of you who aren't from Monterey County, who aren't from Salinas, like, we thank you for being here. We thank you for hearing these stories, and we need you here with us in this battle with us. And we need you to bring your friends. We need labor with us, because otherwise, what plays out here will have ramifications statewide, for better or for worse. And we want it to be for better, because we know that this isn't a battle for Salinas. This is a battle for renters across the state. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being the voice of so many who don't otherwise have voice, because we know that it matters. And I just personally, on behalf of my lived experience, like, God bless you and thank you, and let's do this. Thank you, Esther. Let's hear it for Esther. For real.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. I just want to close with asking for your support, supporting Salinas with the donations. They're going to need a lot of funding. You know, we need legal help to fight this whole situation with the DAs. So getting the word out also statewide. Go home and tell the people in your cities and your counties what is happening here, because it can happen there. I also want to invite you, those of you that are not members of the Renters Council, to please join our Renters Council. We are made up of renters, and as we all know here, we do not have a lot of money. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that the party does involves money that we don't have. So any support we can get from members. You can sign up to be a monthly donor. You can give us a one-time donation. We would appreciate all of that because we are actually a PAC and we can endorse candidates. But we can't contribute to campaigns if we don't have the funds. So helping us with that is really, really important. And I will leave you with two last statistics. First, the state of California this year came in tied with the state of Louisiana for the highest poverty level in the country. Oh, wow. That's fact. So when we think about talking about we have the fourth largest economy in the world, that economy is not benefiting everybody. Our poverty level is not acceptable for a state this wealthy. Also, we also know now with studies that have come in for this year that the only category that has increased in poverty levels are seniors. Every other category of poverty has either stayed the same or dropped. But seniors increased 15%. We cannot have our seniors relying on Social Security alone. That doesn't even cover a fraction of their rent. Those are the people that are becoming homeless. It is not what some of the higher-ups and others that want to keep stating the narrative of last century that it's alcoholics and drug addicts that are becoming homeless. They are not the ones becoming homeless. They are, absolutely, but the highest demographic of people who are becoming homeless are families and middle-aged women. Our seniors cannot be forgotten in this, and it's very, very important that we join with them, and as well as families. They are the ones that are going to carry everything forward for us. And the seniors have already done the work, so we owe it to them to stay housed. And on that note, I thank you all very much for attending, and I really hope that this was useful to you guys to be able to take it forward and bring us members and help us through everything that we know we're going to be challenged with.
Thank you, before we close, I would like to acknowledge someone that came in a little bit later, Stephen Bradford. There you are. Just one more time to be here. Thank you, Esther. It's a beautiful event that we held together. Thank you for creating this beautiful space for us to come as renters and supporters, allies. I want to thank all of you for coming, and it's important that whenever you go back home, that you are keep in mind and centered our renters. I want to close with this. During the pandemic, we learned that the triangle of where Bakersfield, Delano, Porterville, the rent went up by 40%. 40% during the pandemic. This is farm working communities, 40%. That is a reality, that's a fact. So let's go back home and just shake it up.
Yeah.
Be the change. Be bold, brave, and courageous. Be a Democrat.